Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl is announced. Tag Heuer is making a deluxe Mario Watch, and Valve enters the console hybrid scene with the Steam Deck. This is episode 16 of We the People. My name is Michael Cottrell. I'm your host, joined by my twin brother, player 2 since the womb, Matthew. Say hello to all the folks out there.
Hello, mateys.
Yeah, this be the pirate episode? No, we probably need some pirate stuff to talk about. Slow week in the news. As of recording this, the Switch OLED went on sale like a day ago. I think it sold out, which is really funny. And then the day after, Valve announced something that was actually sounded kind of like a Switch Pro. But let's get into some of this little stuff first. Matthew, what do you think about that Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl?
Oh man, where do I begin? It looks terrible. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's pretty cool. I mean, I don't have a lot of faith in it being a great game just because I've played some cartoon games before, and typically they're bottom of the barrel games. I played a Nickelodeon racing game, and it might have been one of the worst video games I've ever played in my entire life. Honestly, a game that, I make jokes about some of those JRPG games that look like they could be on consoles like GameCube or PlayStation 2 or what have you. This game literally looked like it could have been on a system that old. And so I don't know how much faith I have in the game being great, but it seems like they want it to be great. And the way they're marketing it and really playing off of the Super Smash Bros. Hype, it seems like they really want this to be a big deal. And I hope it is something that is a worthwhile product, because if I think it is, it'll be something that will turn into a franchise and stick around to stay. And I think the character roster is pretty cool so far. I think it's cool that Reptar is a character. That'll definitely be the main guy that I use, either him or Spongebob, because Sponge Me Boy, that's something pirate we could talk about, Yarr, Sponge Me Boy, Patches old hula hand.
Dude, Patches, if Patches isn't like an assist trophy, I'm out.
So it's funny, everybody keeps referring to this game in Super Smash Bros. Terms, SpongeBob's final smash should be this, and I'm like, it's. I don't know why anytime anybody sees a platforming fighting game, I understand Smash created the idea, but it's almost as if you looked at any 2D platformer and you're like, Mario.
I do want to let's go ahead and jump into that whole thing, because a bunch of news sites are covering it as like Smash clone Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl is blah blah blah, and let's get something straight here. Smash was the first to that concept, and it created a lot of the norms for that, but not everything inside of a genre is a clone. It's going to take a lot from Super Smash Bros. Into its formula, maybe almost everything. Just you can track dozens of fighting games that have the Shoryuken input and that take a bunch of different notes from Street Fighter, from the way the characters turn around when someone jumps behind them, to the button layouts, to the inputs, to the modes that are available, to the there's so many of those staples for fighting games that it's a clone if it's like Smash, but if it's the 500th game that's kind of like Street Fighter, that's just the fighting game genre. And it's kind of funny because these games will also use Street Fighter terminology to describe stuff, in the Smash presentation, talking about a Shoryuken input for a Tekken character, that's just kind of normal. So it's funny because people use it to disparage it, but I'm in for the memes. The memes are really funny. They're the ones that are that part is absolutely doing it for me.
Oh yeah, I mean the one where I told you there was a meme I saw that said when Squidward gets patched after 1.2, and then it's the scene where he's really upset about the band's not cooperating for the show he's trying to put on, and he's like, you took my one dream and you crushed it, and crushed it into tiny pieces. There's some memes that are really, really well done.
Oh yeah,
it's pretty
Or like the one with Timmy Turner's dad, how he always used to bust down Timmy's door. And he's, "Oh, Timmy, I'm respecting your zoning by not tapping you at the ledge, but asserting my authority as your father by punishing your bad DI with my disjointed hitbox and doing 0 to 25% in a true combo anyway."
Yeah,
it's just the funniest thing, and that's I saw that one on Twitter by a guy Aquana, but yeah, I hope they add a lot of the dads. Nigel's my favorite addition so far.
You should see, though, that there's a lot of competitive Smash players that have been upset at how much, like, there was somebody who made a post saying, "Can we stop talking about the Nickelodeon game? Like, sheesh, like, blah, blah, blah." And it's so funny that, because I really think the Smash community is so toxic and immature, and it's funny that there's something that people just finally get along about and have a lot of fun with, and that upsets a lot of people. You know, and it's notoriously one of those pro players that's just in favor of all the JRPG anime sword characters. You know, everything's edgy, everything's needs a sword and stupid one-liners. And, you know, it honestly doesn't surprise me at all that that's the type of person that's upset at all this joy over cartoon characters. But, you know, it is what it is. Not to single anybody out. You know, I'm sure there's plenty of anime profile pictures that don't have a problem with this, but...
Yeah, that's sort of the circle of life on social media platforms, is like something gets big and everybody's having fun with it, and then somebody has to, like, you know, be the first one to be to try and, like, you know, like every joke has a shelf life, and you know, we'll get there with this game, but we're not there yet. It's still like, keep the memes coming. But yeah, all that aside, so some extra context about the game. What I like about this is that instead of you know, Nickelodeon just farming this out to someone random and having them do just whatever job they can do for the cheapest amount of money possible, they are partnering with the indie developer that made Slap City, among some other places, some other what's it called, some other studios that have pretty bad track records, but like there is an understanding for like a studio that has made a Smash-like game before, and so it'll be interesting to see what they can do with a little bit of extra money. With that extra money, they got rollback netcode, which Smash doesn't have, so there's a start. They've literally got better online than you know, the multi-million-dollar, like 30 million unit selling Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, so that's nifty.
The funniest thing that could come out of this is if this game ended up being nearly, or if not more fun than Smash, and then it has better netcode as well. That would be hysterical.
That would be hysterical.
Honestly, I would be all for it.
The chances of that happening are astronomically low. Like, this is probably going to be like an average game at best, just because, like, typically with movie tie-ins and media tie-ins, like, you know, they just don't feel like spending the money. There's a chance, because I mean, you look at like the Spider-Man game and you know, some other universe where the Marvel game turned out well. Like, it's starting to become a trend where, like, let's make a good game because it'll sell more, and then we'll make more money for our license. And so hopefully that sort of thing is happening, but yeah, I mean, it's not looking great, but the chance is there.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, call me crazy, but I've told you this before. I think for some time now, Smash really isn't, like, I say this as a huge Super Smash Bros. Series fan, but I really don't think the games are as great as people make them out to be. Even, like, playing Smash when you just play one-on-one, right? Like, that game works so much better competitively because of all the things people find out to... Like, there's certain exploits, even in Ultimate, that people use, like wave bouncing, for example. That's not really, like, a strict... Or it's not really a core mechanic of the game. Like, I don't think they intend for when you turn around with neutral Bs that your momentum will swing completely in the other direction. I think stuff like that is unintentional. And I don't know. I just look at Smash and its formula really, like, just think about how many characters in Smash really aren't that different. How many sword characters all have a down B counter. They all have the same kind of smash attacks. And same for other types of characters in the game as well. It feels like every heavy character most of the time is exactly the same. I don't think it's that hard to compete with Smash. I really don't. Sometimes I feel like that's why that game we played, Rivals of Aether, I feel like that game's just as good as Smash. I really do. I don't think it's that hard to make a game that's that fun, that's a platform fighter. I think the only reason a lot of other ones haven't succeeded as much is I feel like the only other ones that have attempted this have been indie games, and you can tell that they just don't have the money and the developers with the expertise that something like Smash would have, which is why I don't have faith in Nickelodeon doing it. But that's why I'm always shocked that Sony hasn't given this another try and just putting a reputable developer behind it like Insomniac and just say, hey, go make us a game like Smash. I really feel like they would probably make a game that's better than Smash, to be honest.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I would disagree with your assessment of Smash. I think from a lot of standpoints, from like the amount of content, the complexity that goes into creating all the new characters that they make, that has the adverse side effect of every new character being really annoying. It's like Little Mac is such a cool character, but he's so obnoxious to fight that it's like I'm not appreciating the artistry behind it. And it's the same is kind of true for like Steve from Minecraft. It's like, that's awesome that you did all that stuff, and I do not want to play against him. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, but I think the amount of content and the love that's put into every character from the standpoint of like their animations and how they feel is really special in Smash, and can only be done at the monumental scale that Smash has become, because it's always been a system seller. So I don't think that they're ever cutting any budgetary corners with these games. It's more of like just a race to finish in time, and that's why DLC works well for the game, because if this was like a complete game on launch, we'd have 10 less characters, and they're just going to keep pumping them out until pretty shortly here, unless they announce another fighter pass, which I could see that happening. But I also think you're right that like the degree to which Smash is like king of the whole like platform fighting genre that's blossoming is really just because no one else is trying to compete at scale. Rivals of Aether, from like a lot of perspectives, from the competitive perspective, is like just as solid. It just has like kind of like Game Boy graphics, and they're making a sequel to that where they're going to have 3D models. But I feel like the biggest problem that even PlayStation All-Stars had is just that the animations look a little bit sloppy. They can't quite figure out like what size to make the characters in relation to the stages, so that you have like you can keep track of your characters. Like sometimes I would lose track of Sackboy in PlayStation All-Stars, and that can happen in some of these other games. And just a lot of the clean things that happen under the hood. How like knockback changes subtly based on like the percentage that it's like, yeah, like Aether's got that down, but also Aether has like no ledge mechanics, and there's all these little pieces under the hood that make Smash special that they've been building on for ever since they announced, or they released the one on 64. And the right dev could definitely compete with that, but now you need like the strength of the IP. And honestly, maybe I'm kind of answering one of our questions from last time, like why is Nintendo adding so many PlayStation characters in Smash? Maybe it's to kind of discourage Sony from doing a PlayStation All-Stars again, because like you think about it, the big problem with PlayStation All-Stars is it had a lot of cool characters, and the gameplay was like kind of subpar, kind of average when you look at it entirely. Like they had a lot of hubris in like changing the Smash formula in ways that wasn't actually making it better. But beyond that, they were missing a lot of key characters. Like instead of Snake, they had
Raiden from like a spin-off game for Metal Gear Solid. They didn't have any Cloud. They didn't have any Sephiroth. They did get Hayachi from Tekken, but it's like they didn't get Ryu from Street Fighter. They didn't get Crash Bandicoot. They didn't get Spyro. There's so many of those like big characters that they didn't miss, and now a lot of those characters have appeared in the Super Smash Bros. Series, which like you could almost also see some reality where the contract deal that they're working out with like say Cloud being in Super Smash Bros. Is that Cloud can't be in another platform fighter. Like you could almost see something like that being in the contract, which might explain why Rayman's not in the game. And it could be a way for Nintendo to like kind of like cut off any competition from there, at least from the game space. I don't know. Interesting thought experiment.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea. I mean, and again, I just think, you know, you were talking about Rivals of Aether and some of the things it doesn't have, but I also think, again, you're talking about a small studio making a game, and it's nearly as fun as a game that, you know, makes the millions and millions of dollars that it does. So the fact that it's even a contest just shows you, I think, you know, people could compete in that space. It's the same thing we say about Pokemon all the time, that Temtem is the first to attempt it. But, you know, I really feel like if a company like a Square Enix, for example, since they make Dragon Quest, just tried to do the same thing as Pokemon, they could do it so much better. And I just think, I look at Smash, and you were talking about just even the thought that goes behind percentages, and see, that's my criticism with the last couple of Smash games, is I don't think they actually put a lot of thought into that stuff. I think they make a lot of silly choices. How, you know, Roy's side B, for example, a button mashing move can KO Fox at like 70%. That's just dumb. It's just, there's no way around it. It's just a stupid concept, you know, and they don't really, you know, I feel like they haven't since Melee accounted for combos either. And so most combos are just either, you can tell they were how should I say, they were meant to be in the game. There's some combos that it's like you're just meant to do that with that character, or it's from people figuring out other things to do with the character. Like a lot of combos Diddy Kong has, you can tell were not intentionally meant to be there, but he has a lot of cool combos that come as a result of you know, people just figuring out cool things with the character. And
the banana.
Yeah,
like,
but I'm just saying there's things like, you know, getting somebody up in the air and then jumping and doing your up B, and the other character gets kind of caught with you on your jetpack barrel, and then you crash into the platform, and so they get hit by the explosion. There's things like that that's just not intentional, and I feel like that happens with a lot of stuff in Smash. And so I don't know, I just feel like, you know, if a developer of a fighting game just tried to do or just a good development team tried to do a game like Smash, I really feel like they could succeed. Now, again, I don't expect Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl to do that, or any of these indie games that have been trying to do it, but I just think it could be done. I don't think Smash is this insanely hard game to make. I really think it's what makes Smash special is its characters, you know, for most people.
Also, I would say it has like a 20-year start on everything, where like a lot of Mario's moves and attributes can be traced back to the very first 64 edition of Smash, and they've been just, every time they make a new Smash game, they port all the assets and moves over, and then they work on top of that. So anybody who's going to start has to put in like way more work to do that, because, you know, even with new characters that they make, you can see that that a bunch of characters have like the same exact moves. Like I forgot what the example in Ultimate, but with all the new characters, there was like a bunch of moves that they just carried from like one character to the other, and they'll like reuse assets and different pieces of different characters to make the character creation process faster. And so anybody else that's coming into this space has to account for that. And but yeah, at the same time, it's like, yeah, PlayStation could just hire, you know, like Nintendo hired Bandai Namco to do most of the heavy lifting, and then Sakurai is kind of the brains of the operation. You could do the same thing with Namco or Capcom, or, you know, even like just kind of a team that some sort of joint venture that you get together, which, I mean, interestingly enough, PlayStation bought Evo But I think PlayStation's stance on it is like, we'll let Nintendo do the Smash thing. We will just eat up every other fighter. Like Street Fighter, we don't know about the next one, but the last one was PlayStation console exclusive. Tekken only, and this is also like, what I was saying by, Smash adding PlayStation characters. Only 2 out of 18 Tekken games have appeared on the on a Nintendo platform. Like every numbered Tekken release is a PlayStation game only, and some of them, a couple of them came to Xbox as well. And so it's just like they don't really need to compete with Nintendo in the like greater fighting game arena, because nothing is coming to the Switch except for like, Mortal Kombat and Justice. And Nintendo doesn't work with companies outside of Japan for the DLC pass, apparently. So so we're not going to see Scorpion in the fighter pass anytime soon. But yeah, I mean, you could totally see a world where they just they form a team at Capcom to make a Smash-like fighting game. But again, yeah, it's really got me wondering, like, if there's some sort of exclusivity deal that they've got with it, because PlayStation could probably tie down a bunch of these characters that Nintendo is either unable to or uninterested in nabbing. Like they could get Lara Croft, they could get more Final Fantasy characters. I mean, the next Final Fantasy game, the Final Fantasy VII Remake is a timed exclusive on PlayStation, and Final Fantasy 16 is going to be coming to PlayStation only. They've got so many third parties tied down that.
Well, and no, I was just going to say, that's why I just don't think, the other reason I don't think it's hard to compete with Smash is because I feel like Smash's creator is so self-absorbed with the, characters that he wants in the game and the direction of the game he wants it to be, that I'm like, man, give that to somebody. Like, you put somebody else in a position like Smash and just go with all the fan favorites that people want. Like, man, it's just, and I think that's why I'm surprised Sony hasn't attempted this again, because I feel like they would definitely get it right, and they'd be going after the big name characters that Nintendo has been neglecting. So, but just not to get on this Smash tirade. Obviously the focus here is about Nickelodeon, but I hope PlayStation does that, and I hope this Nickelodeon game turns out really well. I mean, it's got the pieces where I could see this actually turning out to be really good, and honestly, the character roster is like just like Smash in the olden days. I mean, it's almost a more fun roster than an Ultimate, because while you look at the last few Ultimate characters outside of Steve, and it's just a bunch of like teen to M-rated, like humanoid PlayStation centric characters, and you've got Spongebob versus Nigel Thornberry versus Reptar. All they're missing is Hugh Neutron for what might be the best roster we've seen in a fighting game in a long time, because it's like this. That's what people like about this. Is that the wacky characters, the zany elements, and so yeah, I really hope this turns out well. I mean, I think if nothing else, like they've seen the power in like an idea like this. People want more games like Smash Brothers, because you know what, like I'd like an alternative to like booting up Elite Smash and fighting Zelda, Young Link, Ness, and Joker. Samus. Yeah, that's why I told you about battle arenas, but
Well, I did it today. Pyra and Mithra in the battle arena, though. So I mean, it's just like
I mean, that's I
didn't do much better.
You're gonna get a mixed bag. I mean, you'll usually get all kinds of characters in those, though. I see characters like Ice Climbers and Lucario and Diddy Kong, characters you almost never see getting played on Elite Smash. But anyway, no, I hope it's a fun game though, because I wouldn't mind. Reptar, giant dinosaur. I mean, I love dinosaurs, so that'd be a sick character to play with. And then Spongebob Boy. I just hope they, and this is the only thing I wonder is, are they going to go crazy with the roster additions, or are they going to keep it pretty, modest, just in case this takes off and then they want to turn into a franchise? Because that's the problem I think Ultimate has, is they're including so many characters that now I wonder for a sequel what you do for the casual fan base, because if the next game has less characters, and that's why they said there's no way they're going to do this again. I don't agree. I think Smash from now on is going to have all those characters in it, and I think they're just going to keep building off of this, because now I think you'll get the casual consumer base that will look at the roster and be like, wait, so now I'm getting like 20 less characters than the last game? Why would I want to play this when I could play Ultimate and have even more characters? So I really feel like they've kind of backed themselves into a corner. And so that's why I wonder with Nickelodeon, if they don't want to go too crazy on the roster in the event that this game really takes off, and then they have something for the next game and the next game and the next game. So, but there's a lot of great character choices that they could have. Like you were talking about Nigel. I would love to see Darwin, the monkey, be a character. That would be awesome. It reminded me of like, a little. Oh well, they actually made him look like Diddy Kong in the art that they made for a Smash Bros tournament coming up, where they made it look like the Super Smash Bros Ultimate box art.
Oh, what is the point of dodging?
But I think Darwin would be a cool character. I'm trying to think of who else. I mean, obviously there's probably going to be like Timmy Turner. I don't think he was shown. Jimmy Neutron. I don't think he was either. Man, they could put Goddard in the game. The dog.
Well, they've got a lot of stuff going on, and
Squidward has to be in the game.
I mean, already they have like a pretty fun roster. Like, just reading off the list, they've got Helga from Hey Arnold, Danny Phantom, Sandy, SpongeBob, Patrick. They gotta have Squidward. Like, he's got to be like a secret character that you unlock. Zim from Invader Zim.
Hey, why is Arnold not? I don't understand. Helga's there, but Arnold's not. That'd be kind of dumb.
Well, I don't know. I actually like what they're doing with this, because they're getting
really got to stop
kind of
doing
a
that.
variety of characters by dipping into like different places. Like it's like
run into
there's not going to be any Rugrats from Rugrats, but it's like,
kind of hard to tell.
what would Tommy do?
Yeah.
Tommy Pickles do as a baby?
there's not much
As
charging
awesome as that would be
animation.
to like literally fight with a baby.
I wouldn't be surprised if
well,
they still make that work. I mean, he was
assume
in the
if someone's
Nickelodeon
standing
racing
still, they're
game.
charging a smash attack.
Well, but there's a difference between racing a baby and punching a baby.
Dude, the Kung Fu Panda, everything he does goes through my back.
But I want them to put all the dads.
I mean, it
in.
wouldn't really be
Stu
fair.
Pickles,
All your
Q
moves
Neutron,
Got him.
move you around.
yeah.
also out
The Turner dad, I don't
people.
remember his name, but I mean, it's like it's such a fun roster already, and
I gotta give it to you.
they're going
Gotta
with
give
a
it to you.
nice balance of stuff that's new, like the new animated style of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and a lot of like old
I dodged.
throwbacks, like we talked about with like Reptar, even like
Welcome to
Real
my
Monsters, which I imagine wasn't
Yeah.
like a huge show for them, and Powdered Toast Man from
No,
Ren and
Our
Stimpy,
Real
like that's
Monsters-
even older than I was.
Hey!
Like,
I
don't
believe
remember that.
All Real Monsters was a pretty popular show. But man, it'd be funny if they. You remember the Prometheus and Bob show?
Yeah, they're
Oh
like
my
all
gosh, if they
put
did
Amanda
that-
Bynes in the
Win again.
No, but that's different. I'm talking about they were just claymated. But imagine if they put
I gotta
Ant-Man
win
and
once,
the
right?
Alien in. That would be the funniest.
right?
I mean, just a nod to all the old school people. Oh man, you know what they have to do? They have to do the Angry Beavers. I know Trevor would. Trevor loves Angry Beavers, but
Yeah,
they have to do the
okay.
Beavers.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, there's so many different fun characters that they can do with this, and so I think I don't know. I
There
think
we
we're
go.
gonna
Daryl's gonna get
people
you.
have experimented in the space before. There's a Cartoon
Daryl
Network
the Grim
version of this
There we
that's
are.
like
What up?
predictably as kind of awkward and bad as
Darren.
you would think, but. I really have high hopes for this one, and it's just like the
What are
other
you
cool
guys doing?
characters that they could bring in. Like, there's
Can you just
obviously they could go in
My-
with
my
the
side is
Avatar.
just like-
They could go in
Well,
with
that's
Cat
that's why this
Dog.
game always
They've
felt
got,
a little
I
strange
forgot
to me
about
because
Cat Dog.
it seems like
and then,
hard to like
what's it
get
called?
people. Like it seems like
they
they
could-
dance
I
around
mean,
each other a lot, but I don't know.
no,
Maybe it's just how
depending
the
on
game
licensing
is designed.
stuff, they could put Goku in.
I've never seen people who are good at this
I've
game
heard
playing
about
it.
that, but I don't.
Yeah, probably
think
not.
that would-
Probably not.
Hey!
Because like the game license and the show license are two separate things for Dragon Ball. I think Bandai Namco
Hey,
has like
hello.
no
I also
exclusive
think
access
Good boy.
to that.
I think it's
Oh,
also like a
Scythe versus
Godzilla thing where Legendary made Godzilla movies. It doesn't mean Godzilla belongs to.
I don't like that.
Like
No,
they can't just
no.
do whatever they please with
What
the
is that?
franchise. You know?
That's dance, man.
But what was
All
I
right,
going
I
to
gotta
say? You said there's a Cartoon Network version of that? Because I was actually just getting ready to say, man, they need to do a Cartoon Network one, because the roster for Cartoon Network would be so much better. Like Scooby-Doo, Courage the Cowardly Dog, Kids Next Door, Ed, Edd n Eddy. There's so many good ones.
It's called Punch Time Explosion.
Yeah, I mean, was it like a actual console game?
I think it was like, similarly like on like every system they could put it on. I didn't know if
it was one of those website flash games. You remember those?
Yeah.
But no, I feel like a Cartoon Network version could be so much better, because out of all the the channels when we were kids, it was Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, Disney. You and I didn't really watch Disney. It was pretty much just Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon. But I love Nickelodeon too, but I always slightly preferred Cartoon Network. So,
there's a lot of fun stuff that you could do with Cartoon Network.
Oh yeah,
as well.
like Dexter's Lab, Powerpuff Girls. I forgot about those too. But yeah, it's what you would call it. But yeah, no, I hope this game's fun. I mean, SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom wasn't even a bad game. I thought for a 3D platformer, it's obviously no Super Mario Odyssey, but it's a fun enough game. Like when I played through it, I enjoyed it. So, I don't think they're incapable. I don't know who's making the game. If it's also THQ, but, which I'm always surprised. The most perplexing thing to me about these games that are based off of media is I don't know why they don't just do what Marvel finally started doing and saying, hey, why don't we get credible game developers to make our video games instead of like, I never get that. Like,
yeah, they don't want to throw down.
They have the notoriety. I just don't understand why they wouldn't approach a company like, I don't know, like how Marvel did Spider-Man with Insomniac and Avengers with
even
Square
how
Enix.
Marvel did it back in the day. Like Marvel had Capcom make all their games, and it's like, from the cool like action brawlers to Marvel versus Capcom and some like Marvel specific fighting games. Like, yeah, I mean, it's like hire someone who is they're just like that's done this stuff before, which is like, kind of what they're doing with I would imagine that the developer that made Slap City is I think that's Ludosity. I imagine that they're the ones like doing a lot of the mechanics and the balancing and the character design, and then they have Game Mill doing some of the heavy lifting with the assets and the graphics and such. But yeah, I mean, like literally there's just like a proven track record for this stuff. It's like, yeah, you can make a cheap, awful, like Star Wars game, or you can make Star Wars Fallen Order and, just put in the work, spend the money, and there you go. You have a really fun game that that people can enjoy for years to come. Spider-Man is going to go down as like one of the best superhero games that ever existed. And like you just get the right people involved. And but yeah, I don't know. I'm looking at some Slap City gameplay right now, and it's it looks pretty well done. Like honestly, like it my thing is that they always have their animations be kind of like just sloppy and kind of unclean, and it's just like lacking that mechanical tightness of Super Smash Bros. That's the only thing that I feel like I'm always missing with these type of games. But money makes these things more possible, and with it being co-developed with a couple other people, I could definitely see the case for this like looking the part. So we'll see if that becomes the case. But well, definitely there day one. Yeah, Catrello Plays, Catrello Games will be posting. I'll be posting my Nigel Thornberry combo video, and I'm here for the memes, dude. Here for the memes.
Yeah, if Darwin's in the game though, you have to at least try him. Just because he's a monkey.
But I'm mostly just into the dad characters. Being a dad myself now, I am that goofy cartoon character now. But anyway, moving on. It's enough Smash-ish talk. Can you tell that's one of our favorite types of games? They don't make enough of them. Which, like, you know, I remember even Microsoft said at one point, like, you wouldn't want to have a Microsoft Smash Bros. I'm like, yes, I would. Like, they don't have a big stable of characters, but now with the Bethesda buyout, I mean, they could have Vault Boy, Dragonborn, Master Chief, Banjo, Steve, like, it's already kind of a hype roster. Anyway, moving on. Just a quick mention, Pokemon Unite launches on the 21st of July for Nintendo Switch. It's going to come to mobile devices in September. Very excited about that. We will be playing it. I'm going to main Cramorant, who is quickly becoming my favorite Pokemon. And yeah, that's not really much to say about that. A few weeks back, we were like, what's happening with this game? Here it is. It'll be out on July 21st.
And Marowak's going to be in it. Just kidding.
That'd be cool if Marowak was in it. I assume he'll get in mostly because he's one of the more popular Pokemon, and that's who they're going for with this. But they're trying to appease the people who always complain that there's too much Kanto love. It's like, I'm sorry that Kanto's the best. Sorry. Like,
sorry.
My top 3 favorite guys are not from Kanto, but I just, like, you know, at some point you just got to look at the facts and be like, Pokemon likes making money, and so they put out the stuff that makes the money. You know, nobody's buying a first edition Vanillux for thousands of dollars. You know, it's not happening. Or Zorua.
Yuck.
It's not happening. $60 for Zorua. I've been buying trading cards lately. Moving on. Nintendo and watch company Tag Heuer have teamed up to make this what I think to be a ridiculous watch, but I'm not into luxury watches at all, so I might just not be seeing the appeal to this. The jokes that are popping into my head aren't entirely appropriate, but it's the ultimate watch for gamers, we'll say. I don't think you're going to be... I don't like I said, I don't really get the point of luxury watches other than, like, you know, having a big billboard on you that's like, rob me. But there is now a limited edition Mario watch for $2,000. They're going to be making 2,000 units, and that's it. And so you gotta, it looks like the date has already passed to order it, so you're hearing about this late. But I just wanted to make my little dad joke that 2,000 is the right amount to print, because that's probably a very precise number of the amount of people on this planet who are willing to spend $2,000 to have a Mario watch.
Well, I can tell you for a watch that's literally nothing, you know, as somebody who's a big watch connoisseur, even though I don't buy any of them, I just admire them from afar. But, you know, there's a place here in Atlanta that's called Phipps Plaza, which is a mall for higher, more luxury items, you know, things like that in retail. And they have a watch store, and it's funny because they're the lowest price for a watch there. I believe they're for Opal watches, or Opus. I think it's Opus, but they start at $6,500, which is, you know, for luxury watches, that's you know, not uncommon, and they can get much, much more expensive. But I actually really dig this, and Tag Heuer is a really good watch brand. It's funny, I one of my favorite athletes is Tom Brady, and he has a deal with Tag Heuer, so he has had a bunch of watches, you know, come out that he's advertised and everything like that. But if I had known about this, I might have thought about it, you know, just because it's something that'll probably be worth a lot too. But, you know, it's kind of a goofy looking watch to me, though. That's the only thing I don't like about it. It doesn't look like a nice watch. It kind of looks like, especially for them, it looks kind of cheap. But I don't like the way smartwatches look, and I believe it's a smartwatch.
Yeah, here's my thing. So I'm not really making fun of, like, game brands, gaming merchandise in general, but, like, Google Pokemon shirts, And like, go look at that merchandise. It's elegant. It's not like in your face. It's just like cool. And you can get a bunch of different designs that evoke the feeling of Pokemon without being like, this is a Pokemon shirt. Go buy a Pokemon merchandise right now. And that's my problem with a lot of game tie-in merch, is that it's so in your face to the point where like people, I'm perplexed why people would buy like a logo for something that's like a massive corporate thing. I guess, you know, if you really like that franchise and you want it to like grow, like I guess you're like putting out one for the team. But the watch is like way too on the nose for me, where like Mario's like swinging around going wahoo Mario wahoo wahoo Mario wahoo 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 Mario wahoo. It's just it's a little much. I might have preferred like something a little more covert, a little more elegant, not so in your face. But again, like, you know, I don't even understand why people wear watches in this age and time where we've got clocks everywhere. I got a clock on my Switch. I got a clock on my phone. There's clocks in on my stove, on my TV. It's like,
yeah, it's not. Nobody wears a watch. Nobody wears a watch for the time. It's always been an aesthetic thing. You know, it's you know, that's why to me, when I go out and I put on an outfit that I think looks nice, I have watches that I like to wear, and I think watches really complement outfits, and that's why people wear them. Like, no, I can't think of many people wear them specifically for the time. There's definitely people still utilize that, but it's not the focus of a watch anymore. But I agree with you with the watch. That's the thing I'm saying, is that to me, it's just a plain looking watch with Mario in the middle, and it honestly looks like a kid's watch, which who knows, maybe that's the target audience for this thing. But the fact that they're only producing 2,000 of them leads me to believe that's not the case. But it is this
is a watch for kids with $2,000 to spend in very large wrists.
Well, and that's why I said for a luxury watch, it's actually not that expensive. So, I mean, you'd be surprised how many people buy watches for way more money than that. But
well, yeah, I get that it's an industry, but yeah, I mean, that's what's kind of weird about this too. I just think it's like a little too gaudy to be luxury. But like I said, I mean, printing 2,000 of these, that is like precisely the amount of people that are gonna be interested in this, and you'll get a few scalpers along the way too. But yeah, anyway, I just thought it was interesting. If it was Donkey Kong, would you spend $2,000 on it, Matthew? Assuming you had $2,000 of disposable income.
That's a tough question, man. I just might. If it was Donkey Kong and it actually looked pretty cool, it would. Yeah, there's a good chance, but I probably wouldn't wear it. I'd probably just keep it, you know.
Now, it would be cool in a display case, because I like the animation that plays for Mario. Like, in a display case, I can totally see it, but yeah, just like, I also don't get the, like, sort of application of, like, having a big image playing on your wrist. You know, again, to me, it's just like screaming, like, rob me. But, you know, maybe I've been spending too much time in Atlanta here. All right, let's move on to the most important topic here. The Switch is now competing with another handheld. Did Microsoft make a handheld? No. Did PlayStation make a follow-up to the Vita? No. Even though PlayStation Vita had an OLED screen 10 years before Nintendo did, it's Valve, of all people, making the Steam Deck. It is basically all the components of a PC, of like a tower PC inside of a handheld system. You got buttons on the side. You've got some clicky things on the back that I guess real gamers use, those like 15 button controllers. There's so much going on with this. I think it's a little chunky, not a little ugly to for my taste, but the functionality, my boy, is there, and it is something to behold. We've got mouse pads that are in there for games that require them. We've got double triggers, and then, you know, a couple other triggers on the back. We have got you know, two thumbsticks and a D-pad, all the regular stuff that you would want. But where it gets crazy in terms of versatility is you could wipe this thing and run Windows on it. It comes loaded with SteamOS, which is kind of a version of Linux, but you could put Windows on it. You could, do Microsoft Excel on it if you wanted to. You can connect it to a monitor and like work off of it like a PC, surf the web, like anything you can do with a computer. It's pretty cool. And it starts at $399, which is getting, eerily close to the Switch now that the Switch is retailing for up to $350. Now that's just going to get you the 64 gigabyte internal storage version, and there's upgrades from there that can run you a lot more expensive, than you got to buy the dock on the side. So there is that to consider. But Matthew, what are your initial thoughts on this? Does this excite you? Are you going to be a PC gamer now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you remember, but thanks to you and our friend David, of course, there's a lot of PC experiences that I have had in my life that are very memorable and I'm fond of, and a lot of games I remember playing and just having a great time with. When we played Half-Life and Counter-Strike and all the mods that those had, that's still my favorite Dragon Ball Z experience is not an official Dragon Ball Z game, but ESF, Earth Special Forces, a mod of Counter-Strike. Super cool. But then even other games like World of Warcraft, I know everybody likes to clown on World of Warcraft. At the end of the day, they're really fun games. And,
Dude, portable World of Warcraft is going to be amazing.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's what I was thinking about, is like a game like that really, really benefits from, that. Even though World of Warcraft is not, it hasn't been for years, it's not this grindy, spend your life on it experience, but for people who want to really spend a lot of time on it, and really just all those MMORPGs, they're really going to benefit from the fact that people can just take the games with them. And, I know there's companies like Xfinity that are figuring out how to make Wi-Fi portable. So if you do that, that just really, the possibilities are endless. The only thing I'm a little weary of is what you were talking about, is I just wonder what the end-all cost is going to be. And that's the only thing that I could see being a detriment to this product, because they're marketing it as a $400 product. But, like you were saying, buying the dock on the side, what better versions of it are going to be when you inevitably need to upgrade it, what's that going to run you? And so to me, I think if it can stay at all competitively priced with the Switch, it's a great thing. And I think it'll actually take off big time. Like, this could be a huge thing for the industry, but I think if it's one of those where when it's all said and done, you're spending $700-800, I think no chance whatsoever and of being competitive. But then on top of that, I think this could determine a lot for the industry, because I think if this is competitive, you'll see Sony and Microsoft try to get into this mobile system space. If it doesn't do well at all and doesn't even come close to being successful, if it's a total flop, I think Sony and Microsoft will be continuing to do what they do, because I think the industry will look at it as other people, or mobile systems are just kind of a gimmick thing that Nintendo was able to do well with, and they won't try to replicate it. Even though I don't think that's the case, I just think it's, if you can still make the price worth it, because I think if you're, if, like I said, if end all be all, this ends up being like a $600, $700, $800 product, that's where you're going to lose a lot of people, because I think people are okay with the Switch being the price that it is and getting the performance that it is, because you're not paying an arm and a leg for it. I think the mobile aspect of it is just a nice addition, but if the Switch was a home console, for example, it wouldn't sell hardly anything, or I wouldn't think it would. And so having that mobile aspect that appeal to it is really great, but I just think again, it's sorry, I lost my train of thought there while I was talking. I was trying to say the mobile aspect, but the cheaper price, I think those together is what makes it an appealing product. And I think if you're paying, the money of a PlayStation 5 for a portable system, unless it rivals the PlayStation 5 in terms of performance, I think a lot of people will look at that as getting a lesser product, even though they'll be gaining portability. I think at the end of the day, people look at once you're spending a certain amount of dollars, you better get a certain level of performance out of the system, which from reading the specs, it looks like it's going to be really good, but I haven't compared it to the next gen consoles yet.
Yeah, so the official comparison that they make is Xbox One and PS4. I've heard comparisons to that. But, you know, it can run a lot of games like Death Stranding and, you know, your latest AAA fare pretty well. But the only thing that that's concerning to me is like, you know, how powerful is this thing actually? Which I guess let me start by saying this product was like tailor-made for me. I don't want a PC. I've been using Mac for too long, and PC's just, you know, I don't want to learn how to use an entirely different operating system again, but I need a PC for like a couple of fringe uses and for gaming. And so being able to like dock this into a monitor and also run my Windows programs on it, like, wow, chef's kiss. It's an SSD in there. It's like, you know, I think I'm going to have a good time with this thing. And like, you know, the only library for that I think really like challenges Nintendo is this one. 'Cause I mean, you think of like, what is the value proposition of the Switch? It's the concept for sure, but it's also the only place where you can play Smash Brothers. You know, I saw a tweet like that was legitimately asking people, like, people who have a PS5, how do you go back to the Switch after that? I'm like, it's easy. They don't have Donkey Kong on the PS5 or Mario or Zelda or anything like that.
No,
but like
Donkey Kong's
having
all
the
you needed to
having the entire PC library on a handheld, like, that's pretty crazy. Because, I mean, you know, indies are big on Nintendo Switch too, but indies are available about a year earlier on PC. And so, like, this is going to become my indie machine. Like, the Switch is just not going to, you know, I will have already played everything that comes to the Switch a year before. But like, what's interesting about this price point, though, is that, yeah, it starts at $399, and you can end up with like a $700 system, which would be less powerful than the PS5 and more expensive than it. But I think the versatility is really the selling point here. And the OLED Switch only has, I think, 64 gigs of internal memory. So, I mean, it's $50 more, and it's the same amount of internal memory. It honestly, the specs are probably better than the Switch. The only thing that has me like holding my breath with the specs is that it's saying that, like, yeah, you can run at, like, you know, high settings for the latest AAA games, but this is skewed for like a 720p display. When I bump that up to like 4K on a monitor, am I going to lose that? And I feel like the real thing that would kind of like start to unseat a Switch is if a competitor comes in and they can dock into 4K and it like runs well and performs well. But if this runs like, you know, doo-doo at 4K, then I think it's really just kind of a nifty handheld instead of this hybrid system that we're looking for that's like a deluxe experience. Like, yeah, of course it'll be able to handle 720p, but I don't want to play 720p on my monitor. It's not, you know...
Yeah,
the Xbox 360 was a long time ago. I don't want to go back.
Yeah, when we were playing Godzilla Save the Earth for Catrello Plays, that was this. I believe it put the game at 720p because it was on the original Xbox, and you see it just the image shrink down. It's no fun. But I do want to comment on one thing that I think really tremendously helped this announcement, though, and gain a lot of traction and hype is the fact that Nintendo's OLED system announcement was so underwhelming. And you know, to be fair to Nintendo, I think it really hurt them that you had all these leakers that kept saying something about a Pro Switch, Switch Pro, whatever. It's going to have 4K. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. And then because it was just a minimal upgrade and didn't really offer much besides an improved display, a wider kickstand, and better sound quality, you know, that is it. I think that really helped this because a lot of people are looking at the Switch or looking at this and being like, okay, well, you know, the Switch has been what it is. Now you get this lackluster upgrade. or I could go and buy this, portable PC that's going to be much better than any Switch, and I don't know. I just think that the timing was perfect. And I think if Nintendo's new Switch was more appealing, this wouldn't have picked up the way that it did.
Yeah, I definitely think that the timing is honestly hilarious.
Do you think they jumped on it when they saw the Switch OLED, that they're like, okay, we got to announce this soon? Because I wouldn't be surprised.
Realistically, probably not, because they inked some sort of deal with IGN where IGN would exclusively reveal the console, so they probably had to schedule that weeks or months ahead of time. But at the same time, Gabe Newell knew about the system and was talking about it months ago. He was saying that Steam was going to announce something later this year that was going to be pretty cool. And here it is. And I think it got announced same day as OLED Switch pre-orders went up. And that's just hilarious. But as far as when we really think about competition, when we really think about is Nintendo in danger? I don't see it. I don't think Nintendo's in any danger at all, because you got to think about the vast majority of Switch owners. They see these bright, colorful characters like Donkey Kong and Mario, and they just go in to get the Mario machine. And sure, the guy at Best Buy might be trying to upsell them on a Steam thing, but they're going to ask, what's Steam? And instead of just being able to pick up physical cartridges that are very simple and easy to understand for all the kids who are out there who want to play the latest Pokemon game, I don't think this is actually going to compete with the Switch much at all, honestly. I think it's serving a pretty different group of people. Now, for people like us, we might get this in addition to our Switch, but it's just I'll always have the latest Nintendo system. I bought a Wii U at launch, and I loved it. And I just like Nintendo games, and Nintendo will always be, in some sense, kind of sheltered by the crazy good IP that they've got. Because even during the Wii U, you could say the Wii U was a big flop. The 3DS wasn't. The DS wasn't. The Game Boy wasn't. Game Boy Advance wasn't. And their handhelds have always just been safe, no matter what competition was out there. And we've seen this sort of thing before, where PlayStation comes out oh man, they've got all these games. They can run them so much better than the Nintendo console. I mean, like I said, the PlayStation Vita had an OLED screen a decade ago, and no one cared. Because again, when you're shopping for Christmas, a gift for someone, it's just the strength of those Nintendo characters really sells a lot of consoles. And that's why I think it's smart that Nintendo's finally getting on the ball and getting some Mario merchandise out there, getting some Donkey Kong merchandise out there, because these characters have a presence and they make sales. And Valve doesn't really have that. To the hardcore gamer, they also face this kind of issue with to the hardcore gamer who's really into the PC space. They might buy this in addition to their expensive PC, but this doesn't replace an expensive PC. But for weirdos like me who don't have a computer but want one, but don't want to invest that much in it, and video games, this feels like it was made for me, honestly.
Yeah, I was going to comment on, you were talking about you don't think it'll compete with the Switch. I don't either. I mean, I just think this could be really successful, and I think if it is, in the event that it is, I think you'll see Sony and Microsoft try to get in on that space as well. But I think they're probably a little more hesitant after you had the Wii, and then you had PlayStation Move and Kinect on Xbox, and those didn't really take off the way that I think those companies hoped they would. And so I think that's why they're not, jumping into, okay, the Switch is a huge success, now we got to make a portable console. Even though I think Sony has a patent for one, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not example, I don't know what I was getting ready to say. Do. But with that being said, I think if this really takes off too, you'll see them pull the trigger on that idea. I really believe that. Maybe in addition to the PlayStation 5, But, I just hope you don't start getting these systems that are just an extension of their home counterparts. I don't like the idea of that. Like I don't want another PlayStation Vita. Like just the ability to play the same games I can play on another console, but I can just play them on the go. At that point, I'd rather just have one system, instead of having to buy two things to fulfill a mobile and non-mobile experience. Which, the PC, I think it works a little differently just because, for PCs, that's, I guess it doesn't really work differently because everything you'll be able to play on this, you'd be able to play on your normal PC. So I guess that
the cool thing about
kind of the
PC,
Vita concept.
Yeah, Vita, I think, mimicked it very well. Like for PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, you could play a version of that on the Vita that was slightly different than the PS3 release, and the visuals were pretty comparable. Like, it was kind of on par. There were other games like Sly Cooper 4 that did a similar thing, bringing that crossplay concept to life, which is funny because the Switch is just, crossplay done right. Like PlayStation did it first. That worked fairly well, but I think it was just kind of confusing to the consumer. But this simplicity that the Switch brings is really special, and where this can kind of come close to that is you have this system that runs PC games that have all been like tailor-made to be able to scale up and down in a variety of ways to make sure that they work. Like when we played Crash Bandicoot and we were trying to get my 4-year-old computer running a virtual Windows to run it at a decent frame rate, a clean 60, we were playing with the settings and we couldn't do 4K, but we could do 1080p. We could turn off shadows, we could like adjust some aliasing settings there, and all that stuff is tailor-made to make sure that you're always getting good performance. And that's the part of this that does make it work really well, because a PlayStation equivalent, you wouldn't be able to run something like Ratchet and Clank on the go without them making like some different version of it. And that's what's so special about this. The other crazy part that we haven't even talked about that's huge for this is that this is going to be so great for Game Pass. Microsoft running their subscription service where you just pay a small fee and you can play like Halo on launch day. You've got a portable system you can do that on. That's awesome. And I could see Microsoft really getting excited and kind of behind this from a software standpoint if they don't jump into the hardware space. Because I mean, the thing is with hardware is that it's just like it's a huge risk to manufacture all these consoles and maybe no one buys them, which is also what's smart about Valve, announcing this months ahead of time. They're essentially getting, enough orders and kind of like filling out their orders based on, where the interest is. So like, it's coming out this, at the end of this year, but right now, if you want to buy the top of the line one, it's going to be delivered in Q3 of 2022. So, they're kind of like building their expectations with that. But yeah, I mean, I think what's going to happen with this is like, there's going to be a smaller group of people that do it. Hopefully Nintendo actually looks at this and sees how they're getting great performance out of it. Is there anything that we can learn from this? They probably won't, because, that's just sort of the culture, the company culture of Nintendo. They don't like to look at what competitors are doing, but yeah, I really hope it generates more interest in the space. Not that I want a whole bunch of handhelds that I have to kind of keep track of, but I do miss PlayStation handhelds. They were fun.
Yeah, no, I mean, they were definitely fun, and it was good to, not just have it all come from one place, which was Nintendo, which is why, I hope we get more games that are like Super Smash Brothers and Pokemon, so that it's not, because competition breeds better products, so that's another great reason why this, portable Steam system it's a great thing that it's happening, is just something to, you might see Nintendo, like if this does really well and it does happen to compete with the Switch, you might see something better from them next time around, where it's, because I feel like on the performance end, there's a lot left to be desired, and you're seeing that this, system is taking advantage of that. So, yeah, definitely would be good to see that,
this really like changes the space, but I honestly I don't think it's going to affect Nintendo's bottom line much at all. I do think that if there's anybody who's seen both of these systems, like, this is going to probably, I mean, not a whole lot of units, but this is going to snatch a few OLEDs out of Nintendo's pocket. For people who might have been interested in upgrading. I don't know why you'd be interested if you already have a Switch and an OLED Switch, but like, those people exist, and this is making it a lot harder to like justify spending another $350 on that when you could get access to the gigantic PC space for $50 more.
I think the OLED Switch is going to be a flop, to be honest. I think this is something that Nintendo's going to look back on and regret even making. I don't think it's going to affect Switch sales, but I think investors are going to look down on it because I don't think it's going to do well at all, because I don't think people care to spend an extra $50 for what are very minimal improvements. And then once you spend that extra $50, you're $50 away from a PlayStation 5, albeit it's the lower end PlayStation 5, the digital only one. But still, I mean, it's just... And I think once you get in that territory, for consumers, it's all about bottom line and on price. And I just think once you start rivaling that and you're not getting something that's even close to being able to do what that system does, I think, that makes a big difference. And then the fact that you're only $50 away from this portable system that is much better than the Switch, I think it's the same kind of concept. So I really don't understand why they're even making that system. I think the Switch is doing just fine. I don't think they need to introduce anything that's going to sell alongside it. But hey, man, you and I aren't, we don't run a billion-dollar corporation or whatever Nintendo's worth, so obviously these people know something, although I tend to question Nintendo's business decisions quite frequently. I feel like for every one they get right, they get two wrong. They're kind of like Sega with Sonic games, so every time they nail the heck out of it, they come back with a couple stinkers, and then they nail it again, and then it's it's like clockwork.
Yeah, I wouldn't entirely agree with that assessment. I think what they're doing here is they're just running the portable playbook that they always do. So they had 3DS, then they had big 3DS, and then they sold smaller but cooler 3DS with a little nipple in it. Like, they did so many different iterations of 3DS, and honestly, it just kind of keeps the interest fresh in all this. And, it's much like the Game Boy SP. They're going to get a small percentage of people that will double down and get another one like I did. And then for people like you already bought a Game Boy Advance, whatever. There's someone behind you who hasn't played Game Boy yet and wants one. And so I think this will be very similar to that. And I think eventually, let's say they eventually do come out with Switch Pro or Switch 2 or something like that. This might become like that standard model of Switch that they sell as an entry point, and start to do it more Apple style with their hardware lineup. We will say that it did sell out in minutes. In Forbes reports, even though people made fun of it, it sold out within minutes. However, I would say that you got to kind of like contextualize stories here, where over the last year, the pandemic mixed with a lot of these game companies and toy companies manufacturing their own bit of scarcity. Like, I'll never get over this, that in a pandemic, in a global pandemic, Nintendo chose to manufacture scarcity with Mario 3D All-Stars and try and like squeeze people in that time. It's just, that'll never not be funny to me. But with this climate, whenever there's a new release that might be limited, like, scalpers are salivating over this. They, like, PlayStation 5s are slowing down. They're getting cheaper over time. This, for the first few weeks, will, like, sell $50 above retail or whatever, and people are going to get in with that stuff. But it'll be interesting long-term to see what happens with this. I think it's just going to, Switch sales are going to, keep trucking along at the same pace. Some people are going to buy the OLED for an extra 50 bones. Some people are going to be fine with the regular Switch. Honestly, sometimes companies sometimes companies put this like third option in to bump people up from the introductory to the other one, and it's kind of weird, but like the way that it looks is like, oh man, for $250 I could get a Switch, and then you show up at the store and the guy's like, oh, but do you want to dock into the TV? If you want to do that, it's only $50 more. And then, oh, well, do you want the handheld experience to be a little more deluxe? For $50 more, you could do this. And so I think it's just about kind of like establishing this upselling hierarchy. And you see Apple doing that now with their lineup of the iPhones. They've got the small one, and then the Pro, and then the Pro X Max Machina, and like honestly, like some of the middle units just kind of fade into obscurity because people are either trying to get out for the cheapest price or they're trying to get the best product. Which, interesting thing about the Steam Deck, the one that is most delayed is the most expensive one. So that's the it seems to be like pulling this other market where it's kind of interesting because it tells us that maybe people were willing to spend $500 on a Switch Pro if Nintendo would have just gone for it. But yeah, I don't know. Like, would you pay $500 for a 4K Switch, just like upgraded resolutions? Because the cost is a big problem with this. Like that's just the biggest problem, is that it's expensive to make something handheld and also like competent.
Man, I can tell you this: if if the Switch was at all, like, if you could make a portable system as good as the PlayStation 5 is, man, I'd pay. I'm ashamed to admit how much I'd pay for that. And I don't even really use the mobile aspect, but I just think, for me, honestly, I am not a big fan of the Switch. I almost never play it portably. I'm not one of those people that gets that versatility out of the system personally. So I wish we just had a Nintendo console to rival the other two. But if it was portable, though, and could rival that, I mean, if it's just simply 4K and it's the price of a PlayStation 5, no, I don't care. I'm not one of those resolution crazy people. I care more about the actual performance of the console, what it's able to do. Because you and I know from playing the new Ratchet and Clank on PlayStation 5, there's just nothing on the Switch that's even in the same dimension as that. Like, it's incredible how far video game performance has come, and that's kind of the shame with being a Nintendo fan. I know people like the Switch for the portability, but for me, I'd trade that for a more powerful console in a heartbeat, just to get anything even in the same ballpark as that Ratchet and Clank game and other countless PlayStation 5 titles. But yeah, I mean, if there was something that was on that level, I'd pay $500 for it. But for 4K, if it was just 4K, I'm one of those people that I've mentioned it to you and Trevor a million times. I have trouble seeing the difference sometimes with between like 4K and 5K, for example, and other resolution differences. It's especially when games or movies or things aren't optimized for that resolution. A lot of times when you go back and you just, it's kind of like when you port something to a more powerful system, like when The Last of Us was put on PlayStation 4 from PlayStation 3, it didn't look like a PlayStation 4 game. It just looked like a slightly better version of the PlayStation 3 one. So I think unless it's designed with that purpose in mind, like if you just made Super Smash Bros. 4K, I don't think it would actually look that much better. Whereas if they designed a Smash game in the first place with the intent of it being 4K, it would look like a 4K game. You know what I mean?
Well, it's the difference between, can display at 4K and,
was designed to display at 4K.
Well, they call it like native resolution instead of like upscaling. Like Returnal on the PlayStation 5 is 1080p upscaled to 4K with some like what do they call it? The anti-aliasing? No. They use the AI to like upscale it to make it look like it's like a competent 4K thing, but it's really, actually 1080p. Ratchet and Clank was a native 4K. But it's like even the PS5 at $500 can't do 4K ray tracing 60 frames per second. You got to choose two of those. And so that's where it's like, I bet if Nintendo was just doing a dynamic 4K upscale, it would probably push the system to $400.
Well,
and
you
at
said
that
60
at that
frames.
point,
I'm pretty sure PlayStation 5 can do all that at 60. It's just you can't do it at 120.
No, they can't do it at 60. So like for Ratchet and Clank and Miles Morales, like the two, I mean, those are probably the most like technologically advanced PlayStation 5 games so far. You can do ray tracing, 4K native resolution, at 60 frames per second. You can pick two of those, but you can't have all three. And so you have to always make this choice in PS5 games between fidelity and performance. And honestly, it's annoying. Like I don't know what's the better choice. And I kind of wish they would just kind of like design a game for me. I feel like that's kind of the console experience is simplified as much as possible. But yeah, I mean, that's the interesting part, and why I don't think we're gonna see a Switch that kind of scratches that power level anytime soon. I mean, like Steam's not even doing it with this new console, and they're selling some units for like $700. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting because the space is really just kind of separating. Like Microsoft is really leaning into more of like a subscription / software presence. PlayStation is sticking it classic with the dedicated console. Nintendo's here with the portable system that you can also play on your TV, and now Valve is coming in, and they're kind of filling like just a different type of customer, where I don't think there's going to be that much crossover just in outside of the terms of like, okay, I've got $500 to spend and I want to get my son a gift for Christmas. Like I just don't see a whole lot of other scenarios where people are going to be confused about which one they want. It's like, do you want the premium console experience? Do you want the Xbox Game Pass? Do you want the PC library, or do you want Pokemon? It's just it's going to be like as simple as that. But definitely an interesting space for sure. It'll be fun to see, especially with the Switch OLED. Like, does that replace the Switch? Does that outperform it? Does it underperform? We'll keep our eyes out for those financial reports that come out. But that's about it for this episode of We the People. Matthew, have you said your piece?
Yeah.
All right. Well, join us next week. We didn't get to Skyward Sword. I rented it from GameFly, and it's not here yet. I'm not going to buy that game. So we will talk about it next week, along with our impressions of Pokemon Unite. And if you haven't, subscribed to us on your podcast service of choice, YouTube, whatever, check out the other Catrello brand items: Catrello Games, Catrello Talks, Catrello Plays, Catrello Yodels. One of those is fake. But anyway, we'll see you next week for another episode of We the People.